ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय राधिकायै प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायण गोस्वामिनिति नामिने। श्री कृष्ण लीला कथने सुदक्षम औदार्य माधुर्य गुणैशयुक्तम वरम वरेण्यम पुरुषम महांतम श्रीनारायणं त्वं शिरसा नमामि। त्रिदण्डिनां भक्तशिरोमणिं च श्रीकृष्णपादाब्जधृतये हृदि चैतन्यलीलामृतसारसारं नारायणं त्वं सततं प्रपद्ये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्याय नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। श्याम सुंदर शिखंड शेखर स्मेरहास मुरली मनोहर राधिका रसिक मां कृपा निधे स्वप्रिया चरण किंकरीं कुरु। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे तन्मय माम चरणन्तिके। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So first of all, I offer my unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of my most worshipable spiritual master, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My unlimited prostrated obeisances to Srila Sachidanand Thakur Bhakti Vinod, the author of Jaiva Dharma, and then my respects to all the assembled devotees. So thank you everyone for joining, and my apologies, I had to reschedule this a couple of times because month of Kartik and we are having so many programs here in Houston. So thanks for being flexible. So last time we discussed that how when Sannyasi Mahashay, he stated that he has realized that the teachings of Shankaracharya, the Advaitvad, were so abominable. But hearing Shankaracharya's name, Premdas Babaji offered prostrated obeisances and then explained that actually Shankaracharya is a very great personality because he himself is Lord Shankar, who appeared in this world to accomplish a very special mission of driving out Buddhism and re-establishing the basic principles of the Vedas. And then he explained that how the Advait Siddhi or the perfection that the Advaitvadis talk about, how it is in one sense similar to Mahabhav or the state of great ecstasy that has been explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in which there is no difference left between the beloved, the belover, and the love between them unites them to a level that we can't even conceive of. So this is where we ended last time. So we'll just go through a quick quiz, and this would help everyone to revise what we did last time. So let's me. It's a quick yes/no questions. So please take a couple of minutes. So the first one is related to the ego we discussed last time, the pure ego, the subtle ego, because of the subtle body, and then the gross ego, because of the gross body. So that's the first question.
And just the ego of the subtle body.
So very simple question. So if just take a couple of minutes to answer them. Okay. Let's get a couple of others to respond before I close this. So the first question is related to the subtle ego. The second question is regarding the types of religions we discussed. And the fourth question, actually, I just answered. Okay. So I think let's just stop here, and I will share the correct answers with everyone. So the first question is due to the ego of the subtle body, the living entity thinks I'm a Brahman, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm a king. So these qualities or this is related to not the subtle body, but the gross body. So when the living entity comes into contact with Maya, first gets the subtle body, and because of that subtle ego, as we discussed last time, he starts thinking himself to be the enjoyer of all his actions. And then to enjoy the results, he gets a gross body. And because of the ego of the gross body, he thinks I'm a Brahman, I'm a rich, poor person, I am miserable, I'm happy. So these are all designations due to the gross body. So the answer to this question is no, not yes. So this was a bit tricky. So it seems like it's because of the subtle body, but as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, this comes later on. First, the ego comes that I am the enjoyer of the fruits of my actions. Then the second question, everyone got it right. So the religion in which the eternality of the Supreme Lord and the individual living entities is not accepted, that is called Anitya Dharam or impermanent religion. So third question also everyone got it right. So that's great. That Shankaracharya actually appeared after Lord Buddha, and he appeared before Ramanujacharya. Right? So as we just discussed, he actually appeared to drive out the false concepts of Buddhism. And based on what he established, the other acharyas, the Vaishnava acharyas came and established the true Dvaitvad. So everyone got it right. That's good. And the fourth question also, everyone got it right. So I think all of you are doing great. So fourth question is also correct, that the relisher of the love, who is the beloved, the object to be relished, who is the lover, and the process of relishing love, or the love between them. These are distinctly present, always eternally present. So this is the very fundamental difference between Advaitvad and Dvaitvad or Vaishnavism. And this is something I think all of you should get very, very clear, because this is where a lot of people get very confused. So when we talk of prem, that lover has to be there, the beloved has to be there, and they always maintain their eternal distinction. They never merge into one another. And then finally, the philosophy of Advaitvad is same as the modern day philosophy of Mayavad. So this is excellent. Everyone got it right also. This is not correct. So this is what we discussed last time, that Sripad Shankaracharya, what he gave was actually not very different from the Vaishnavism. But only thing was, he came up to the point of saying that yes, we become liberated. What he did not explain is what happens after liberation. But up to that point, what he gave is not very different from the Vaishnava Siddhanta. But the modern day Advaitists, so-called Advaitists, who are also called Mayavadis, and we'll discuss it a little bit more detail. But Ashok Prabhu, I think you have a question.
Yes, Prabhuji. So is it the ego or is it the nature that my shuttle body thinks that I am rich, I am Brahmin, I'm poor and all that? Because I got the question wrong and I said yes, that it is because of the ego.
So the ego is the false identification, right? So the first ego that develops is the subtle ego. So because of, and subtle ego develops when we want to enjoy independent of Krishna, right? So that first subtle ego, because of that, we start thinking that I am also like Ishwar. Ishwar means I can enjoy, I can do my own actions independently, and I can enjoy the fruits of those actions. And to fulfill that desire to enjoy independently, we get the gross body, because with mind we cannot enjoy, right? So that's only at the level of bhav, right? At a material conception of bhav, but it is not where you can actually enjoy. So for that, you get a physical body. And because of then identification with the physical body, you get the third ego, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, and this is the ego of the gross body. And it is because of that identification, because still you have the gross body, you will not have that ego of I am king, because you don't even have a body, or I am black, poor, rich, American, Indian. That ego or that false conception would not even develop till you actually have a physical body, right?
Got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So, so then, in response to that question, Premdas Babaji was explaining that there is very important distinction between the current day Mayavad and the philosophy that was given by Sripad Shankaracharya. So it is important to understand what those differences are. This is where we finished last time. So I just wanted to go through that once again. And again, very important to understand. See, once you get clarity about these few points, then you will never actually get confused. So as when we started Jaiva Dharam, one thing I was discussing is the reason that we want to understand Siddhanta is that we become firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. Because without understanding Siddhanta, we are just at the level of some emotions, and emotions are temporary. They are not spiritual emotions. We find like kirtan, or we'll just go and we feel very nice. But little bit comes, or someone else tells us some philosophical point, which, because we don't have clarity, we get carried away, right? So therefore, and of the Siddhanta, these points are very important to understand. So the current day Mayavad, which is a distortion of what Sripad Shankaracharya gave, these are the 5 things that are not at all as per either the Vedic scriptures. This is total distortion of what the Vedic scriptures also state. So the first thing is they deny the existence of anything except one spiritual substance. So they say there is only one. There is nothing beyond one. That is one Brahman who is all pervading. He is the transcendental effulgence, and it is without any differentiation, has no qualities, no features, no form. And because he has no qualities, they also deny the existence of love within that spiritual substance, because he has no emotions, he has no feelings, right? So there is nothing. It is just like light. So light is effulgent, but then at the same time, even light has properties of heat and other things. But they believe there is nothing. It is not nothingness like Buddhists, but it is just pervading effulgence. And then now the problem with that philosophy comes is, how does the Jiva manifest? Right? So if it is everything is Brahm, then how does the Jiva come into existence? So they say, well, this Brahm gets overwhelmed by illusion or Maya. Now this is where the problem is. Because if Brahm is the all-pervading truth, how does he come under the influence of Maya? The example, of course, they give is just like the sky is all pervading, right? When you look up, everywhere is the blue sky, but portions of the sky get covered by the cloud. So whichever portion gets covered by the cloud, then we don't see that part of the sky. When the cloud gets removed, then we see the sky again. So now, well, with that, even though it is just covering, but when we say that the Brahm, the part of Brahm gets covered by Maya, and that becomes Jiva. That means that Maya can overpower Brahm. So who is stronger then? Is it that spiritual substance is Brahm more powerful, or Maya? Because if I can cover something, then I have greater potency. So this is where the problem is. That means currently as a Jiva, I am under the influence of something called Maya, which is more powerful than Brahm because it is able to cover Brahm, right? So you're understanding where these fallacies are in their concept. So that's why we don't agree to this, and because Maya, as per the Vaishnava siddhanta, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur will explain this very beautifully later on, is actually a Shakti of the Supreme Lord. And Shakti never influences the Shaktiman or the potent. So Krishna never gets affected by the Maya. And the fourth thing that they say is that the form of Bhagwan is an illusory manifestation. So even though when you go, sometimes when you go to the temples, and this is one thing which unfortunately a lot of our Hindu brothers and sisters also get it wrong. They may not have clarity about the Advaitism and Dvaitism, but they do not believe that the form of the Lord that we are worshipping, the deities that we have in the temples, are actually eternal, because they are manifestations of that eternal supreme absolute who has a form. So they just say, oh, this murti is only for the purpose of us focusing and being able to meditate. So especially the Advaitvadis or Mayavadis, they worship 5 different forms, and but they do not believe that those forms are permanent. These are only for the purpose of meditation, right? So this is another difference. Now this point, Shankaracharya never taught this, right? He only explained about the supreme absolute being eternal, but never said that his form was an illusion. And then finally, they say that the divine love and its various manifestations are also illusory. But they say what we are talking about, non-duality, is beyond the influence of Maya. But we just saw that they say that Brahm gets covered with Maya. So how is it beyond the influence of Maya? So these are the main points where it is different. So Premdas Babaji, then he says that that because of this, that their mistaken conception of oneness can never be equated with prema. So what they are talking of oneness and what is real love, as explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are not one and the same thing. But as far as the Advait Siddhi, now, so this is what we're talking about, the Mayavadis. But Shankaracharya, he spoke about pure, unalloyed state of perfect oneness, or called Advait Siddhi. So this is where he explains that the prem is completely beyond the jurisdiction of Maya, and its highest development of the unalloyed state of perfect oneness. So he says that if we think of Advait Siddhi, right, or the perfection as per the Advait philosophy, that is the unalloyed state of perfect oneness. So, right, so they, nowadays Mayavadis talk of merging of the soul with Parabrahm. That's what they call as state of oneness. But that's not necessarily what Advait Siddhi means. What Advait Siddhi means is that when the Jiva comes out of the influence of illusion and achieves its pure state, in which it is one in quality as the Supreme. So he realizes that oneness in quality with the Supreme Absolute. And he says the state known as Mahabhav, which Sri Mahaprabhu, he manifested and explained, it's a special transformation of this prem in which prem anand is extraordinarily powerful. Consequently, both the separateness and intimate relationship of the lover and the beloved are transported to an unprecedented state. So he's saying that Mahabhav, there also one experiences oneness of separation and relationship. It is inconceivable, but there the love between the beloved and the lover reaches such level of intimacy, purity, that there is no difference between them. Within, at the same time, they're experiencing both separation and oneness. Now, this is a beautiful pastime of Prem Sarovar. This is the time of Kartik and Brajmandal Parikrama, and devotees go to this place which is near Barsana. And Prem Sarovar, a beautiful place where once Srimati Radhika and Krishna were on sitting on a singhasan, and Srimati Radhika is in the arms of Krishna. So they are right next to each other and having the vilas, a beautiful pastime. And that time, bumblebee came. And when the bumblebee came, Madhu Mangal, who is a very dear friend of Krishna, and some of his friends, they actually can also see the pastimes of Krishna and Radha. And he was around there, and when he saw the bumblebee, he was concerned that this bumblebee will go and disturb Krishna and Srimati Radhika. So because the bumblebee started coming close and hovering around them, so what he did, he came and slowly moved the bumblebee away and drove it far away. And then he said, oh, the bumblebee, he actually said, Madhusudan has gone very far and will not come back. Now, Madhusudan is a name for the bumblebee. Why? Because Madhu means honey and Sudan means to extract. So the bumblebee extracts the pollen from the flowers. So that's why it is called, and that's how it makes the honey. So that's why it is called Madhusudan. And similarly, Krishna also is called Madhusudan because he relishes the love which is like honey and which resides within the heart of his devotees. So Krishna's name is also Madhusudan. Srimati Radhika, hearing this, became completely overwhelmed, and she started feeling the emotions of Vipralambha Bhav, intense separation from Krishna, and tears started rolling down her eyes, thinking that my dear Krishna has gone away, when Krishna is actually sitting right next to her. So this is a mood of Mahabhav, which only Srimati Radhika experiences, where there is oneness and separation being experienced at the same time. So this is what he is explaining, that this Mahabhav is a very special transformation of the state of pure unalloyed state of perfect oneness. And he said that the Mayavad, they cannot even come close to this. They cannot even understand what this great level or state of Mahabhav is. So when Sannyasi Thakur heard this, he said that my heart is deeply pierced with the realization that the Mayavad doctrine is most insignificant. Today you have mercifully dispelled whatever lingering doubts I had in this regard. I feel a strong desire to give up wearing this Mayavad sannyasi garb. So now Sannyasi Mahashay, as he is understanding more and more about the Vaishnava Siddhanta and how the philosophy of Mayavad is not correct, he said that I want to give up. See, he was already staying at the ashram of Premdas Babaji. He was also following all the Vaishnava etiquettes. He was chanting the holy name, but he was still wearing the sannyasi dress of the Mayavadis. Now he's feeling so much, against the philosophy of Mayavad that he wants to give up that dress. Now see what Babaji Mahashay says, a very beautiful answer that he gives. He says, "O Mahatma, I never give instruction on external dress. When the spiritual function of the heart becomes purified, the external dress will be set right easily and naturally. Where there is too much concern for external appearance, there is inattention to the soul's inner function." A very important point that Premdas Babaji is explaining. And this is especially when we want to take shelter of a guru. This is something we should all be thinking and careful about. So Sannyasi Mahashay, by giving up the dress of the sannyasi, he wants to accept the dress of a Vaishnavas, and he wants to take initiation from Premdas Babaji. He has accepted him as his guru, but has not still taken the formal initiation. So, but Babaji Mahashay is saying, wait, don't hurry. If you give up your external dress and accept the Vaishnav dress in a hurry without understanding what you are getting into, then your mood may not stay stable for a very long time. He says that if there is too much attention to, because a lot of time this happens, people come and they say, oh, we really like this kanthi mala. I want to also take initiation and I want to wear the kanthi. Or I like, some things that you do, and that's the reason I want to take initiation. But that is not the purpose of, or should not be the reason for initiation or taking shelter of a guru. One may accept someone as one's guru, but at the same time, before one takes the formal initiation, one should get a proper understanding, even if it's not a deep understanding, but at least have the foundation formed. So he's saying that if we give too much importance to the external thing, the attention to the soul's inner function is not there. So you are not understanding what the guru is actually giving, or what is the purpose of initiation. If you're going through a difficult time in your life and you feel, oh, if I just accept this Guruji, my problems will go away, and then you accept initiation, and then the problem goes away in a year or so, and then your mood of devotion starts becoming diluted. I've seen many people like this, because they come quickly because of some stress in their life at that time, take initiation, and then slowly they just disappear, because they did not accept the initiation, understanding the purpose of initiation. Of course, they will get some benefit, but they would not stay stable. So he says, when your heart becomes pure, you will automatically develop attachment for the external behavior of Vaishnavas, and there will be no fault if you change your external dress. So yes, all of this is important. Wearing kanthi is important, wearing the tilak is important, wearing the Vaishnav dress is important. All of these are important, but the more important is to first understand the siddhanta, understand that what what is the philosophy, what is the goal, and what is the process, and what are the rules that I have to follow. He says, absorb your heart completely in trying to follow the teachings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So, if we instead focus more on understanding and absorbing ourselves in what is being given to us, then everything will happen naturally. Right? So, Gurudev once said to me that when the leaf on the tree becomes dry, it automatically falls off. You don't even have to pluck it, it automatically falls off. So, what that means is that when genuine renunciation develops in the heart, or genuine desire develops in the heart, then without any difficulty, we will accept the Vaishnav dress. And many times, what happens when people take initiation in a hurry, they did it not for actually fully embracing Vaishnavism, and later on, they have a lot of difficulty in even wearing tilak, in even wearing kanthimala, wearing the Vaishnav dress. They find it very difficult because they didn't really accept the teachings fully within their heart. So he's saying, then he quotes from Sriman Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Das Goswami, he came to Chaitanya, he left his home at a young age and came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he wanted to accept his shelter and completely renounce. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, he said, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrit, Madhya Leela, chapter 16, and he says, Markat Viragya Nakar Lok Dikhaya, Yatha Yogya Vishay Bhung Anasakta Haya. Markat means the monkey. So he says externally monkeys. So monkeys sometimes, oh, I am like an avadhut. I am, completely renounced, but then they are having all kind of sense gratification. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Karmendriyani sanyam yah aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachari sa uchyate. That we may control our external senses, but within the heart, if we are constantly meditating on the objects of sense gratification, then that is not a very good thing. That is mithyachar, that is false behavior. So Mahaprabhu is telling Raghunath Das Goswami that don't just show this artificial renunciation to impress the general people. You should first accept without attachment. He says, Yatha Yogya Vishay Bhungya. So at our stage, we are not in the stage where we can completely renounce. So he's saying whatever is required of the material things, you should accept. But within the heart, you should maintain your devotional practices and give up all material desires within your heart. So try to give up the attachment from your heart. Not the external is not that important. More important is the internal. So one may externally renounce, and Gurudev will many times caution about this. Today also I was listening to one lecture of Gurudev about Narottam Das Thakur, and Gurudev was stating the same thing, that one may accept externally and stay in the mutt, but at the same time, he's attached and he's collecting money, right? So when you come to the mutt, that means you're completely renounced. But nowadays, we don't see that. Instead, someone who's maybe sthane sthita, one may be a householder, but at the heart, he's completely renounced. Now, that does not mean that renouncing and living in the mutt is bad. Actually, that is the highest thing if one can renounce. But the point here, and typically for a householder to be renounced is not easy. The point here is that it is not our external situation that matters. That does not convince Guru or Krishna. What matters is what is within our heart. And there are householders like that. And in many of the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were actually householders, but they were completely renounced. So this is what he says in the next verse, Antare Nishthakar Bahe Lok Vyavhar Achirata Krishna Tomai Karibe Udhar. That internally be connected to, be determined and be connected to Guru and Krishna. Bahe Lok Vyavhar, but externally, because you're living in the society, whatever necessarily you have to perform your responsibilities till the time you have to do it, then fulfill those responsibilities. He says, Achirat, like this, Krishna will very quickly be merciful to you and will deliver you. So a very important instruction. So when sometimes when a disciple, first of all, should be careful, say, approaching a spiritual master, and similarly the spiritual master should be also very careful in accepting a disciple, because this is a very, very pure relationship, and the relationship of guru and Krishna, of guru and disciple, is eternal, and the faith in guru is the backbone of spiritual life. So therefore, if someone takes initiation without understanding, and then later on starts developing some doubts, then just like the body cannot stand without the backbone, right? So similarly, if that faith is disturbed, then we also start becoming weak in spiritual life. So we have seen in the life of all our acharyas that they did not accept disciples very quickly. So, like Lokanath Goswami, when Narottam Das Thakur approached him, Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur approached Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Now, of course, they are all eternal personalities, but still to set example, there were other reasons why they were not accepting. But at the same time, they also established this etiquette that this relationship should be entered into carefully. Now, of course, there are people who have sanskars from the previous life, and also the guru can be very powerful, and he can accept someone and immediately give them purification of the heart. So those are certainly all possibilities, but in general, the instruction is given that one should enter into this process carefully. So what he's saying that please first focus more on the internal. So Sannyasi Thakur, he understood the deep significance of this, and then he said, I am now your disciple. So see, again, accepting someone as guru within the heart is more important. And that means accepting guru means that now I will accept your instructions, right? So disciple means one who accepts discipline. So if you take initiation, but do not accept the discipline or the teachings of the guru, then that's not really initiation. Initiation is just start of a process, right? Just like when we get into the university, it is initiating your studies. But if you do not follow what is being taught and do not follow the curriculum and the rules and regulations of the university, you will not graduate. Similarly, initiation is simply starting the process. So he says that I will understand, and when the right time comes, I will, that time, he would accept the initiation. So he says, whatever instructions you give, I will accept it without any arguments. Now he asks one more question from Sannyasi Mahasaya. And if anyone has question, please let me know, but I will continue. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat or let me know. So he says that I have understood that the Nitya Dharma, or the eternal religion of the Jiva, is complete, pure, and natural. But he says, what of the various other dharmas that are prevalent in different countries? How should I regard these different religions? So he says, there's so many different religions that are prevalent, and how should I accept those religions? How should I think of those religions, right? So this is a common question that we always have. There are, almost 4,000 plus religions in the world. So see what Babaji Mahasaya says. He says, "O Mahatma, Dharma is only one, religion is only one, not two or many." So the religion is not different. This is what he has been explaining. So remember, the first thing he explained was it is the eternal nature or the eternal function of an object, that is, it is eternal, it's eternal religion. So that eternal function or the inherent quality of an object never changes. So for example, the water may be in India or America, it may be blue or red. So many different colors may be added to the water, but the liquidity, which is the inherent quality of the water, does not get changed. So it is still the liquidity is the important part. It may have all these different other colors and it may be in different countries. So he says the Jivas have only one Dharma, which is the Vaishnav Dharma, but because of differences of language, country, race, it cannot create different Dharma. So he says people may give it different names, but they cannot create a different constitutional function. So, and now he explains a very important point. He says that it appears to become distorted. So there is, our religion is pure Nitya Dharma, but it appears to become distorted into various mundane forms because the jivas possess different material natures. So Krishna also in the 17th chapter explains that we have different swabhav. Each one of us have a different nature. Three children are born into the same family. They are brought up by the same parents. They get the same food to eat. The parents send them to the same school. They love each one of them equally. But all three children have different nature. Why? Because of the sanskars or the impressions from the previous lives. And based on those impressions from the previous lives are also formed many previous lives based on what kind of activities we did, what kind of association we had, whether it was in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. And accordingly, our faith in this life is also either in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And Krishna explains in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that according to that faith, one worships different entities, different. So those who are in mode of goodness, they worship demigods like Lord Shiva, Indra, Surya, Chandra. Those who are in mode of passion, they worship yakshas and rakshasas. And those who are in mode of ignorance, they worship bhut and pret, ghosts. But those who have nirgun, Shraddha, means above the three modes of material nature, they worship me. So what he's saying is according to the different swabhav, different nature, not the spiritual nature, but the material nature that has formed because of our previous impressions, we develop different faith and we give different flavors to that one eternal religion. But he says, very important, he says, the degree of Vaishnav Dharma in any religion or dharma is a measure of its purity. It's such an important point he's saying. So there are different types of water, right? But it is so there is, so for example, let's set an example of pH, right? So pH, there's a standard that when it is neutral or 7.0, that is pure water. Now, sometimes the water may be acidic, it may be alkaline, but to the extent its pH is close to 7.0, to that extent, it is in one sense pure or neutral water, right? So he's saying, therefore, similarly to the degree a religion is close to the conception of Vaishnav siddhanta, the tenets of Vaishnavism, to that degree, that religion is pure. What that means is that all the different religions that we see in the world, and they come in those three categories that we discussed last time, but they all may have some elements of purity to the extent that they have accepted the the Vaishnav Siddhanta. And then he said that some time ago, I went to Sanatan Goswami and asked him a question. So Sanatan Goswami, one of the 6 main associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that means that these pastime of Jaiva Dharma happened almost, some years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 6 Goswamis were residing in Vrindavan. So he said, I went to Sanatan Goswami, who was a learned scholar. And Sanatan Goswami, apart from Sanskrit and Bengali, he was also very fluent in Arabic, Farsi, and many other languages. So he said in that assembly, Sri Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and other spiritual preceptors were also present. And then he asked this question from Sanatan Goswami. Who asked this question? Prem Das Babaji. So he's saying, I asked this question from Sanatan Goswami that in Islam, they talk of the word ishq. Ishq, everyone is familiar with this word, ishq. He says, is that word, does that word mean love? Does that mean the unadulterated love? Because we also talk of love, prem. So is ishq and prem, as we talk of Krishna prem, one and the same? So Sanatan Goswami said, yes, the adherents of Islam use the word ishq, and they use this word also in relation to the Supreme. But he says that Islamic religious teachers have not been able to understand the true conception of the pure spiritual entity or Shuddh Chit Vastu. So he says that even though they talk about it, but they have not been able to understand the true conception of that spiritual entity. And this is evident from the accounts of Laila Majnu and the poetry of Hafiz. So when they talk about ishq in these, that is not the same as pure love that is talked about in the in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So he said, in general, their reference to ishq is more about the physical love and or at the most emotional love in relation to the subtle body, not necessarily love towards the Bhagwan or the Supreme. So their conception of ishq is not the same as love. And then he says, in the same sense, they talk about ruhu or the soul. But again, that is not the same as what our understanding of the soul and its pure state is concerned. There is still some fuzziness and material conception in their understanding of the soul. So then he's like this, he's explaining they have some understanding, but it is not very crystal clear the way it is in the Vaishnav Siddhanta. So then he says that that what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, that is the highest. So this is Sanatan Goswami still explaining that I have not seen unadulterated love for Krishna taught in any other religion, whereas descriptions of Krishna Prem are common throughout the teachings of Vaishnav Dharma. Then he quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, I have full faith that Sri Krishna Chaitanya was the first to give full instructions on the religion or unalloyed Krishna Prem. If you have faith in my words, you may accept the conclusions. So hearing this, Sanatan Premdas Babaji, he offered his obeisances to Sanatan Goswami and then left from that assembly. So he is giving this answer in response to Sannyasi Mahasha's question about different religions in the world. Then he says, now I will explain to you the second part of your question. And again, a very important concept he explains that we discussed last time also. He says that we use the words creation and formation in connection with the Jiva, but this is a material context. So what he's explaining now, that and what we discussed last time also, that this past, present, and future, these are three phases of time in the material world. So when we started this class, it was 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Now it's already 50 minutes past. So that's already become past. You know, what is 2 minutes from now is still the future. And every time I say something, it keeps becoming the past. And why there is concept of past, present, and future in the material world? Because here the time has a destructive impact, right? So when I started this class, so even though I may externally appear still looking the same after 1 hour, but in reality, I have come 1 hour close to the end point of my life. So every minute, every second, kal or time is reducing my life. So there is a destructive effort of time. And that is the reason there is past, present, and future. But whereas in the spiritual world, time has no influence because everything is present and time does not destroy anything. Their bodies do not become old. They do not become, don't suffer from any disease or anything like that. So there is a concept of time, but the time does not has any influence. Their concept of time is why Krishna has still gone for cow herding in the morning. So there is sunrise, Krishna goes for cow herding, everyone is waiting when would he come back in the evening, and then he comes, they have Ashtakalya Leela. So 8 parts of the day, all those pastimes are taking place because there is a concept of time, but there is no influence of time in the sense that it is affecting their body, because those are not gross body. Everything is eternal. So he says that the uh, the concept, this jiva, when we say was formed or created, all of this happened in the material time conception. That's why we think of jiva getting created, but he says all of this happens before, when he enters into the material domain. But in the spiritual domain, there is spiritual time which eternally exists in the present, with no divisions of past and future. And the jivas and Krishna exist in that spiritual time. So the jiva is eternal and is everlasting. So so he says, so this is what he's explaining. And he says, even though the jiva is infinitesimal, he's an eternal spiritual entity, and his fundamental constitution existed before he entered the material world. And that jiva is in the spiritual time frame is eternally present. Therefore, in reality, the jiva and his constitutional function are both ever present and eternal. Difficult to understand. So he says something very important, because many times, it is difficult for us to conceive. So he said, I have said all these words, but whether you have understood or not, that's a different matter. Why? Because the true meaning, you will understand the true meaning to the extent that you have realized and experienced the unalloyed spiritual realm. So not only this point, but everything in the spiritual discussion, we only understand it to the extent that we have experienced the unalloyed spiritual realm, meaning that to the level that our consciousness has purified and it has coming closer to the spiritual realm, to that extent we will realize these things, right? So he says, the more you can become free from your faculty of experience from material bondage, the more you will be able to experience the spiritual domain. The more the effect of the mind, the material mind, starts loosening up, right? So we talk about brainwashing, brainwashing, right? So people say, oh, we are brainwashing. And that's actually in one sense true, because our brain or mind is so contaminated. As it starts becoming purified through the association of devotees, through the chanting of the holy name and performing devotional services, these atah Shri Krishna namadi na bhavet graham indrihi sevan mukhe hi jivado swayam ev spurti adaha. So it says that the atah Shri Krishna namadi, the name, the form, the pastimes, the qualities of the Lord, atah Shri Krishna namadi na bhavet graham indri, we cannot understand or realize them through our material senses. But he says, sevan mukhe hi jihvado, but when we engage our senses, starting with our tongue, sevan mukhe hi jihva. Jiva ado means and the other senses, in the service of Krishna, swayam eva spurti ataha, then that realization starts coming automatically within our heart. So, and this happens, this experience, anyone who is performing bhakti with a nishkapat, with a pure heart, or without duplicity, this realization will automatically come. So he says, first you cultivate the realization of your pure spiritual identity, Shuddha Swarup, and practice chanting. So he says, so what is the process of how do I become pure and come to the spiritual realm? He says the way to that is not through Ashtanga Yoga or through meditating on the featureless Brahman. So there's so many other different processes, sadhan, none of them will help you realize your eternal spiritual function. The jiva can only manifest his eternal spiritual function by constantly cultivating activities directly meant for Krishna's pleasure. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktiruttama. When we perform these activities of the senses, Kriti Sadhya, will discuss this later, what sadhan bhakti is. Kriti Sadhya Bhavet Sadhya Sa Sadhan Abhita. When we perform the devotional activities by our senses, then Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya Prakatyam Hridi Sadhyata. Then that Nitya Siddhasya Bhav, that eternal eternal form of ours, that Nitya Siddhasya Bhav, that is internal, inherently and eternally present within the soul, it starts manifesting. That is called sadhan bhakti. So he says you should constantly practice the chanting of the holy name. Such practice is true spiritual function. And he says that within a very short time, you will directly experience the spiritual realm. And then he quotes from Chaitanya Charitamrit, where Sriman Mahaprabhu, he is, when Sri Sanatan Goswami, he went to meet Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. So there Mahaprabhu, when giving instructions to Sanatan Goswami, he says, Bhajanera Madhya Shrestha Navavidha Bhakti, Krishna Prem, Krishna Dite Dhare Mahashakti. He says, among all the processes of bhajan, Navavidha Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. As Bhakt Prahlad Maharaj has also explained, this ninefold process of bhakti is the highest. And it is very powerful. It is capable of giving us Krishna Prem. But among Tar Madhya Sarvashreshth Nama Sankirtan, Nirparadha Nam Laile Pai Premadhan. That among those 9 processes, also Sarvashreshth, the highest is Nam Sankirtan. And if someone chants the holy name Nirparad without any offenses, Laile Pai Premadhan, then he will attain the pure love for Krishna. So he's saying, simply by chanting the holy names of Krishna, why? Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Ras Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Abhinatvat Nam Naminaha. And so he's saying that Nam is like Chintamani. Chintamani is a touchstone. So, and Chaitanya Ras Vigraha, it is full of the sweetness of Sri Krishna. Chaitanya Ras Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta. It is completely pure. And Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated. So only a process that itself is Nirgun, which is directly connected to the Supreme Lord, can also connect us to him. And Abhinatvat Nama Naminaha, the name is non-different from Krishna. So he says that it is on the basis of the chanting of the holy name only that we also recognize and find out who is a Vaishnav. So then he, so this is the last thing that he discusses in this chapter, of how we see the different categories of the Vaishnavas. And here he says that there are 3 main categories of the devotees. And what are those? The Kanisht Adhikari. Kanisht means a neophyte devotee. And he says a neophyte devotee is one who chants the name of Krishna occasionally. This is somehow some words got messed up. Okay, let's see here. Try it again. Okay, I think this is better. So chant the names of Krishna occasionally. That is a Kanishta, a neophyte devotee. A Madhyam or an intermediate one is one who chants the name of Krishna constantly. And who is an Uttam, the most exalted? One by seeing whom the others also feel inspired to chant the names of Krishna. So these are the 3 categories. There are many other qualities or differences between Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttam. But he says this is the most important criteria to differentiate between the neophyte devotee one who is at the intermediate or madhyam level, and one who is the most exalted, is how attached they are to the holy name and how is their nishtha in the holy name. So after saying this, he is deeply immersed. Sannyasi Thakur was deeply immersed in the nectar of Babaji Maharaj's instruction, and he began to dance as he chanted Shri Krishna Nam, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And on that day, he experienced a taste for the holy name. Very important. So that means he's progressing through the stages of bhakti, and now he's actually, first we chant the holy name simply to follow the rule of chanting a certain number of times. But as the anarth nivritti happens, the unwanted desires start going away slowly, a taste develops for the holy name. And then without even anyone asking us, or not for the sake of following the prescribed number of rounds, we chant because there is so much taste in chanting the holy name. So today he actually experienced that taste in the chanting. So, and then he fell down at the lotus feet of Premdas Babaji Maharaj and asked for his begged for his causeless mercy. So with this, we conclude the second chapter of Jaiva Dharma. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So let's see if anyone has any questions on what we discussed today or anything throughout this particular chapter.
Yeah,
Yes,
I have one question.
Yes, Didi.
Yeah, so I was just trying to clarify in my mind the difference between Shankaracharya and Vaishnavism, the definition of Jiva. They say that Brahman is the one, and when that part of Brahman mixes with Maya, then the Jiva, that represents Jiva. The Jiva, then comes the Jiva. But in Vaishnavism, we say that we are part and parcel of Lord, right? So first that is Jiva, right? And then when we come under the influence of Maya, then like we are in the material world and all that stuff. So in Shankaracharya philosophy, Jiva comes later when it mixes with Maya. But here we are already a Jiva, we are his part, and we are already a Jiva beforehand, right? So am I understanding it correct?
Yes. So in the Advaita or Shankara philosophy, actually not so much what Shankaracharya taught. He didn't really, go into saying that the Maya covers, but the Mayavadis say that when the Brahman is covered by Maya, right? So as I was giving the example that when the sky gets covered by the cloud, that part of the sky is not visible. So they say when Maya covers a portion of the Brahman, that becomes the living entities. And when the covering of the Maya is removed, so we become one again with that Brahman. So in the Vaishnav Siddhanta, it is the where the Jiva is eternally there. It is part of the Supreme, but is eternally present and gets covered by Maya, which is a Shakti of the Supreme. Right? In there, they don't say that Maya is a Shakti because they don't believe in anything more than one. So yes, and therefore we also never merge into him, into Krishna, and lose our identity. According to them, when the Maya is removed, we lose our identity because we become one and the same as him. There is no difference at all.
Okay. And I have one more question. Yeah, sorry, please.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, so that's the main distinction.
Okay. And from the previous class, I have one more question. We had one story wherein I forgot the name, wherein the soul was traveling from different planets.
Yes.
Mantra jap, doing that mantra jap, and ultimately after that, Harinam was important. So just I wanted to understand. So the soul was reciting the mantras, right? Because when we go to the higher planets, the body does not go there. The physical body cannot go there.
So when you go from one planet to another planetary system, even when the soul goes, it gets a body every time. So when you go to the heaven, for example, you still get a body, right? And then when you go to Taplok, Janlok, or Brahmlok, you every time get a body. Right? So the soul never stays without the body. So when you go up to the Brahmlok, the body that you get is still physical in nature. But when you cross the material world and go into the spiritual world, then we get a spiritual body. So the body and that soul only manifests its spiritual form. But in this case of Gop Kumar, because of that special mercy that he had, he was actually going in the same form. Now he may be getting in the same form he was going, and that's how it is explained in Bhagavatamrit. He was actually going. Now he may be getting a different type of body, but he was going and he was still in the similar mood. He was remembering everything from the past. Like when we go from one to the next, we forget. But in his case, he was actually remembering, and then how he had gone from one planetary system to the next one. But the point to understand, your question is whether the soul was chanting. See, the soul also has a form, right? So when we get to the spiritual world, that soul only manifests its spiritual form. Just like within a seed, the form of the tree is there, it's just not manifest, right? So when it gets nourishment, then the tree manifests from the seed. So similarly, the soul blossoms into its spiritual form as it progresses spiritually and goes to the spiritual world. So first we get knowledge of our Swarup, and then ultimately that is called Swarup Siddhi, and finally attainment of that Swarup, which is called Vastu Siddhi. So soul is not something which is formless. See, that sometimes becomes confusion. We think soul is formless. No, soul is not formless. So just like the seed, now looking at the seed, you will not think that the tree is within that seed. The tree has a form. Right? If you just look at, take any particular tree, it all starts from a small seed. Now, this is still a material example, but again, just take the essence is that the form of the tree is present in that seed also, even though it doesn't show like that. So similarly, the soul has that whole spiritual form within it. And soul is not formless. Soul has a form, it has qualities, it has specific seva in Krishna Leela, and it is inherent in the soul. That is the whole point that Dharma Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining. But at this point, we have forgotten. It is inherent there. It is not something that will come new. Okay, it is not something that you will get a new form, a new thing. It is inherent in there. And only that will manifest that is inherent in there. Just like in every seed, what type of tree will grow, it is inherent that seed. The sunshine and the water are only helping manifest that tree. They will not create a different type of tree from that particular seed, right? So similarly, in beach form, that it is there within our soul, but following the process of bhajan, our true spiritual form will manifest.
Okay, got it. Yeah, this is little difficult book. I mean, I tried to read it, but I found it very difficult, at least when you speak. So I think out of 100%, 60-70% goes in mind. But when I was trying to read it, it was like I found it very difficult.
Yeah, that's why sometimes devotees do find it. But see, this is one book if we understand, and that's why maintaining that, and it's good that all of you are consistently joining and maintaining that enthusiasm, because a lot of times devotees that start reading and that's why I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
See, just like any study that we do, right, there is some effort has to be made. Gurudev, of course, he understands he's eternally liberated, eternal associate of the Lord. But to set that example, he read this book also 108 times. So Jaiva Dharma 108 times. So and every time you read, you will start getting deeper and deeper understanding. And actually, this is very good that you are getting 60-70%. That's a very good sign that you're understanding that much. Many devotees, they have hard time understanding. But this is where all the concepts, if we make that effort to understand, all the concepts will become crystal clear.
Yeah.
No doubts will be left when it comes to the siddhanta.
Right. Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Once again, thanks for joining. Gaur Premanande. Hari
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 Om.
Bol. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.